Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Horsemanship Remark Show. So I am the latest I've ever been. I went on to the Northwood Farms page to go live and the button was gone. I always have excuses, right? Who all is going to join me this morning? Hopefully it's working because it was legit in the wrong place or in a new place. So let's see if Michael's here this morning. I have so many things to talk to you guys about. Val, hi, good morning. Julie, good morning. Where's Michael? And I'm low, but I'll fix that in just a second once we get Michael on. So I've had a really good last little while. I have a Marshmallow report. I have some deep horsemanship thoughts, which, by the way, I'm putting some of those on Threads, the Instagram version of Twitter. And the reason I'm putting them there is because they're like just one-liners and I can go back and look at them and nobody's on Threads. So I like, the 0 to almost nothing audience. Susan, good morning. Did you admonish Doug for me? He's going to be sad that he gave me any video. I love it. Katie, good morning. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I don't have the bridling video completed. It's in my editor. So close. So close. Let's see. And guess what? I have a Rosie thing. You guys will never guess it, right? Oh, here's Michael. Here we go. Let's add Michael. You guys want to guess? What my Rosie thing? It's not as bad as we think.
I am really frustrated with how I cannot find the live.
You should have seen me. I'm looking through because it was not there. The option to go live. It's like,
so you guys. Well, yeah, I'm not even trying to find that. I'm trying to find the fact that you are live.
But imagine trying to go live and being like, where's the button? And I have friends bubbling around here. So who wants to guess what the Rosie story is? But also, how are you this morning?
I'm good.
Good. You guys have boot camp.
I don't want to guess what yes, I have boot camp, so we've only got a short amount of time.
Well,
I actually have a timer over here.
Good job. We have an hour though, right?
Not quite. I have to be down to the barn in an hour. So.
Okay. All right.
Doesn't take long to get to the barn, but.
Are your people getting mad that you are?
No, they're not getting mad. I have to cut it out early this afternoon. So I'm going to start a little earlier this morning than usual.
Got it.
Cutting everything short. So, what story?
Rosie. Did you look at the Rosie YouTube?
Is Rosie which one's Rosie?
Rosie is a little rescue horse mutt. So you guys can go to the Northwood Farms YouTube channel. And this is not the secret project. This is an auxiliary project that I've been working on for a little while.
This is that the one you did the round pen?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yes. That you asked for comments on, and I never did get back to you.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any comments?
No.
Do you guys have comments? Okay, so here's the bottom line.
Right when you sent it to me, it just didn't have comments right then and didn't get back to it.
I get it. So. I totally get it. So she's getting dropped off today. But only for a week. So my goal is that I, put in, let's say 4 hours with her, 4 or 5 hours. Like, I feel like if she's here for a week and I can do 5 hours with her, great. So what we have going on here in Oregon is the most beautiful weather. And so my round pen is dry, like everything is easier to do. It's not going to last. I think, the weather's coming on next week, a little bit drippy, but right now I can help out. So just squeeze it in, basically. So, my plan with her is basically a continuation of what I started with.
in that short snippet. It's not up on Insider though. The,
It
the,
is.
just recently.
No, I mean, it was like the day after I put it together. Good morning, Jen. Hi. Wendy, good morning. Yes, I
I'll have
did.
to watch.
So, bottom line is, for those of you guys that don't know, I zipped over to my buddy Allie's place. She is the head trainer for Harmony New Beginnings Animal Rescue, which is where I got Vivian. The reason I keep mentioning Vivian is because she was, oh, the total misfit, and she made a bridle horse. Bottom line, she had been returned 3 times as well. Funky looking little horse to some people. I thought she was beautiful, and she's still here doing awesome. I borrowed her for a few months 6 years ago or something like that. So anyway, I want to help out there whenever I can, and so I squeezed in a little time with Rosie. I think it was last week, last Thursday. So I haven't had a chance to talk to you guys about it. Is that correct? You guys, we haven't talked about it yet.
We haven't talked about it, but it seems like an eternity ago that you sent me the
Agree.
video. So
Agree. So once again, you can go to the Northwood Farms YouTube channel and look under the rescue horse files. It was also one of the last videos that I posted. There's a 10-minute kind of clip together there. And then there's about 50 minutes in 7 parts, I think, on Horsemanship Insider. By the way, you guys can go to horsemanshipinsider.com now, so it's not as hard to find, and sign up there. So then just go right to the rescue horse files and you'll see the full Rosie videos there. So do you remember it, Michael? I'm sort of curious.
yeah, I mean, is the unsatisfactory term of hooking on, but having her flow around. Um, your emphasis was on maintain direction, but letting her move her own body and find her way to relaxation and rewarding her kind of feeling and thinking back to you and finding you as the place of peace, and that caused her to kind of settle into the movement rather than just feel like there wasn't a place to go and kind of frantically running around looking for her buddies.
Yeah, the emphasis, yeah, pretty much. I would say, you guys tell me if we can use this description. Um, the finding exercise. The reason I say that is because in this particular case, she was so lost. She's just lost in general. That is my assessment of Rosie is she's just lost. She's the definition of being lost. So the whole time was like, here's your orientation. And it sounds like school. But I think of it more like being lost in the woods and just so disoriented, and then figuring out, like getting to a top of a hill or something like that, where you can like orient yourself, like, okay, there's the town I'm heading for, the ocean is behind me, I know where I am. you know that is precisely what I was trying to do with Rosie. Different a little tiny bit than Hope, although not that much different. Like, it's basically a place of orientation, but there are so many pieces that you can put in place as well, like quality of movement, isolating the hindquarters from the forequarters, making transitions, hooking the horse on, right? But even, does that make sense to you guys, that it's more like an orientation? Can we change it to that? I don't know. Oh, I don't know.
Sounds a little.
I don't know. Yeah, a little tiny bit out there. Lisa says she watched all the Rosie videos and Hope. Very interesting. Yeah, because I have basically the same thing with Hope under backstage pass. Who am I missing? Morgan is here. Good morning. Emily, good morning. Lisa says, I really like your take on hooking on. You've definitely put a lot more to it. I'm going to play around with it with Scout and Benny. Yeah, it's a cool comment from Lisa because she was with me on the Pirelli section, you know, pretty much 10 years, right, Lisa? Or at least pretty close. So we've done a gajillion hours of Liberty and, you know, adding some layers to that and putting it to use, like not having any superfluous things. I don't know if that's okay for me to say, but kind of down to the nitty gritty of what is valuable. I feel like I shouldn't say that just because if someone wants to play with their horse at Liberty and do all the Liberty tricks and things like that, whatever, that's fine. So long as you're having you don't need my permission anyway, but you know, so long as you're having fun and all of that. But the way I'm thinking of it now is not to create a separate discipline or a separate sport. Playing with our horses loose. In fact, I'm really kind of getting away from the term liberty just because at this point, and in a way it's kind of cool, that is like a sport in and of itself. And that's not at all what I'm heading towards at all. He doesn't. Does anyone else want to come on the show? Oh, what are you thinking about? You thinking about something else?
No, I'm blank on adding anything right there. While you were talking, there was one point before you said superfluous. Is I think a lot of times liberty becomes going through the motions to where the horse just learns some answers, but then does them without connection or thinking about it. This isn't always the case because some people are connected when done well, but and I guess it is something I've thought about in other areas as well, where you need the horse to understand the intellectual components of a hindquarter yield. What does it feel like and look like, and what is a forequarter yield? Where is the circle and going out and around? Like they need to know what those things are so they can kind of find them and take responsibility on their own. The same would be true of, you know, hooking on. Like that is a thing to understand. That is a part of what it's an item on the menu that we want you to know, right? But they aren't tricks. They aren't things that you just go and do and kind of throw out there or do. Okay, this is one of the things we're doing. Here we go. You know, it's very much feeling of you, waiting on you, doing it together. And so, in working horse and round pen, call it liberty, or in the arena, you're it's not just go around me. It's not just I know what to do in a sense of, you know, I just go around you and then I hook on and we're done, or I move my hindquarters, but there's no, same as everything else. Are you just getting the horse's whole body to do something, you know, moving the horse from point A to point B in something like a circle, moving the inside hind leg underneath, but not attuned to the whole shape of the horse, the looseness of the horse, the balance of the horse, all of that, and the horse feeling of you and all of that, to where, I don't know, I was helping Julie yesterday. It's like, yes, move the hindquarters, but it's not even like you move the hindquarters and then you stop and direct the shoulder if the shoulder is not staying upright or falling in. It's like as you move the hindquarters, you're kind of projecting this energy through the whole horse further up in the rib cage or up toward the shoulder as you're moving the hindquarters to help her understand the whole picture. So the fact that you can just kind of poof a little energy out there toward the shoulder and help them find it, all of that is a lot more feel than I just walk toward your hindquarters and they're kind of moving around. And so I guess it's just this idea of intellectual components, but intellectual components that are understanding that these are some of the things I need you to know and that we are going to do together, but we are going to do them together. And you need to know there's a lot of detail to it, but detail that shouldn't be hard once the horse understands, like, this is just the natural way of doing it. So there's a lot of layers to all that. So I guess it's not just the horse going around you, which it, is.
Or even doing other things, like, how we used to start with going a little bit sideways over the barrel, sideways over blah
Yeah.
blah, jumping over this, like, making a certain amount of laps. Like, not that those are bad at all, and it was so fun, but this is not that. You know what I learned from Rosie, or what really stuck out to me, Lisa, you'll, or whoever else has watched it. When I pushed her right eye, I think at a certain point, that left hind going was so cool to see the curve work, so that I was pushing her right eye and the left hind went. That was cool to see, because I don't think I mean, I've started to notice it a little bit more, but that one was so obvious, I guess, because she was so helter skelter for a little while. So yes to all of what you.
It's just seeing the whole horse
Uh-huh.
and helping the horse, find, like where I started, find balance, find, through their whole body,
I
rather
was
than
thinking,
the whole horse is moving from point A to point B without any thought to how horse's body would be moving if they were moving free out in pasture. Another horse moving them, moving athletically, moving relaxed. So.
yeah, and for sure. So Lisa says not orientation, by the way. She does not like that term. I get it. It's imperfect. But let's say um, rescuing a horse from being lost, showing them about a feel, being able to influence the whole physical horse,
What?
including starting to.
The whole physical horse, but individual parts of the horse.
Yep, that's what I was just gonna say. Yep, for sure. Because you can see the feet start, getting all the way down to the feet. Balance arrives, I think. You don't really make balance happen, but it does arrive. Like, I was absolutely not thinking about any of that with Rosie. With Hope and Frosty in particular, and I have that. I'll get that for you guys too. Balance is absolutely one of the things that I'm looking for him to start to put together, because I was thinking about that as I putting all my gear away yesterday. He's a good example of, maybe not on purpose, probably not on purpose, but getting completely out of whack balance wise, physically, just barf. And it is like, for him to recover his balance and get back to how he was born, that has to happen before we can lope circles. Like, you know, for sure. And before he can make an upwards transition without just tossing his head a little bit, or any of it. Like,
So
we have to recover
there's
some
lots
balance
of ways to be out of balance. How is he out of balance?
on the forehand, for sure. And then when but not always. You guys have seen some of the photos. Like, he is naturally very balanced, but in relationship to the person, he obviously has been conditioned to be disunited laterally. For instance, coming up the rope, walk to canter, like from the ground, the hindquarters would go to the outside. It's like, that's not part of coming forward. And of course, as a result of the hindquarters going to the outside, all the weight goes onto the inside front foot. So, for instance, he'll pick up the left lead going to the right, and then try, like, his version of making a flying change is to wing himself onto the right front foot in a half a flying change. It's like, it never has it been more obvious to me that the flying change in the front, or changing leads in the front, is so much worse than changing leads in the back. In terms of value, changing leads in the back is actually valuable for balance. That's why they do it naturally. No.
Close the door.
No. Yeah. But by
Did you
the
tell,
time I notice it, she's drug it down the house.
did you tell Kip, just close the door?
I did, but you know what he said is, he goes, I wanted them to go in there and hunt, which is true. Out on the farm, you gotta have, the cats have to have access. That's the whole reason we have house cats. Anyway, so for him, for Frosty, and again, he had his head tied down. This is manufactured, and then lunged, and it's him being dumped down on the forehand and disunited laterally has been manufactured by hook or crook, accidentally, on purpose, whatever, doesn't matter. The point is that for him to do all the things that will make him fun to ride and safe to ride, we have to recover balance. And he's just a great example, because he's not stressed out at this point. I mean, a little bit here and there, just a horse is naturally going to stress a little bit when they're that far out of balance, but he's not scared of me. He's not, he's a very level-headed horse, so you can really get to see the physical problem since we've cleared away the debris. So when I have been turning him loose, the first one, make sure he's good walk, trot, canter, gallop with the saddle, orient him to me, put him on a feel, but also then to watch his transitions. And in particular, I'd like to see him get comfortable, doing it the other way, like to get him comfortable on the right lead, picking up the right lead, just trot, transition, picking up the right lead, because he tends to pick up the left lead going to the right, which wouldn't be that bad except for the half a flying change onto the right front foot. It's like, bad. But he's got that he has figured out when I'm like, meh, he's like, oh, I should try something else, you know. And like I'm like, meh, that's gross, you know. And then when I'm like, good job, buddy, he's just generally sorted that out, so it's handy. So once again, that's for a purpose quite different than with Rosie. Like, we just have to get her in the game. She's not that unbalanced anyway, but you know, we have to get her in the game. That is maybe what I've been trying to say.
So thinking about the horse I had a bit ago, that would more or less just be very distracted and therefore kind of lost. Yeah, I'm trying to think how it might be similar or different to
Well,
the little.
then you're doing the divorce.
Yeah.
We never. I didn't get that message before. Side note. I wanted to mention this on the show. Don't forget what you're going to say. Can I mention something as a side note and you'll remember?
Mm-hmm. Basically said everything I was going to say. Is being scattered and distracted. And how is it different than Rosie's being lost? I don't
Well,
have,
how is
I
it
don't have an
different?
answer. I don't have an answer. Not having seen enough of Rosie and having to think about it more. Because I
Yeah,
would
so Lisa,
describe her as lost, but at the same time, she could connect and she wasn't like devoid of understanding that being with a person is a good thing. She didn't necessarily see it as compelling enough to just settle there in the midst of things that would upset her or distract her, and then she'd kind of get, you know.
it's a great point. So you're
Back.
talking about the horse that you had. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point because I saw that the other day with a different animal where the horse was not foreign to being with the person or, you know, but in the midst of being distracted by being separated from like the discipline, the um kind of towing the line a little bit as to where like do not just go off and do your own thing,
Mm-hmm.
shaking your head, you know, jumping around, kicking up in the back, like those, all of those behaviors are a little bit like whatever, you know, I don't know what the words are. I don't respect you enough, or I'm not into this enough, or whatever. And then you have to sort that out so that they can reorient themselves towards the person versus Rosie, who is just lost. And
Mm-hmm.
which is easier in some ways, just because, you know, she's one of those horses where just anything is going to help so
Mm-hmm.
long as it suits her.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing when you talk about a horse basically saying piss off, and you know, kind of being in a spot of there's no respect there, no discipline to understand
Which is the human's fault. I'm not saying it's
that,
the horse's
and
fault, but
that's no um they that doesn't work between you and I. Like, it's not safe, it's not whatever, you know.
not constructive, not helpful
The difference
to
between
anybody.
the horse saying piss off and the horse that's, you know, just doesn't know that there's a spot to be peaceful anywhere, right? It's just
Exactly.
lost. Um, and the difference that it might take, like, um, it's not very generous, but the one horse might need I say this because it kind of happened over the last couple of days. You might need just sort of some sense knocked into him, or like an interruption. Sense knocked into him isn't the right thing, but Eva's horse is here, and she's kind of had some trouble with him because he's just pretty confident little bugger, and he would lash out a little bit when she'd try to be assertive, and he could just handle a lot of pressure and just be pissed off by it rather than yielding. And you know, she'd been kicked by him, fractured her forearm. Her mom was worried about her, like, you know, I don't want my daughter to get hurt. So I'm helping her with, I helped her the other day, kind of took him for a bit and said, but I want you to work through this. So I gave him back to her, and she kind of was trying to do what I showed her. And that was Monday. And then yesterday, or Tuesday, Tuesday, she was doing her best and kind of firming up quite a bit, but just not enough to make an impression on him. And at one point, I walked over to the rail, or we kind of ended up in the same spot, and he was just still pretty scattered and crowding her. And I said, can I take your horse? And I just took him, and the first thing I did is I just put my arm up into his face and said, you've got to give me space. And he gave me space, but then he just wasn't he wasn't used to paying attention and listening. He wasn't used to anything being important enough to pay attention to. And so I got the tail of my rope kind of moving a million miles an hour and whacked him in the shoulder a couple times. And it was almost instantaneous. He dropped his head and just breathed out. And like 2 minutes later, like literally probably no more than 2 minutes, I handed her the rope, and he stood there just like soft and relaxed. And he just needed there to be some boundaries for him, because he was lost, even though he was saying, piss off, stop asking me to do that, you're annoying me because you're trying to firm up but not being effective. He didn't feel good about being in charge. So it was a different version of lost than what you're describing with Rosie. But as soon as I said, look, dude, there's boundaries. You can't come into me. You have to change your shape as you go around me. You can't just wing around. When you feel this rope, it means move your hind end. It doesn't mean brace and kind of fight with your head and sort of get it to the hindquarters. And Eva was doing her best, and she's done fantastic since then, as she saw, look, I maybe need to do a little bit more, like basically everything I have, because she's not very big. And granted, thankfully, her horse isn't very big either. But
how's her flag?
yeah, her flag's pretty nice. I like it. I didn't like it at first, but I do like it. And yeah, so and then yesterday, he also kind of had her intimidated in the round corral, because he'd kind of turn and kick out at her, or she'd try to drive him away and he'd rear. And so I was like, okay, I don't want to get hurt, and she didn't quite know how to firm up or where to be and whatever. So she got him started in the round pen, and I'm like, okay, let me step in, because like you're just not quite being effective. So I came in and I kind of got some transitions, and he was yielding, flowing up in transitions just on my energy, a little movement with the flag. But then asking for canter transitions, like I just couldn't get in there and get it done with the flag at a certain point. Like I was, but then he started questioning, do I really have to? And we'd turn and kick out at you, and I can't get close enough with my flag when his hind legs are flying at me to whack him. So I got a 12-foot lead, and I'm just whirling it like a helicopter. And when he turned to kick at me, now I've got enough distance that I can still reach him and not get kicked. And a couple times just smacking him over the hind end to where he's like, whoa, I was not expecting that. And then I was like, it was kind of the same thing. Just, okay, I'll go forward. Like I just needed to know that I can't tell you to
I
shut
think Right.
And it brought so much peace right away. He's like, oh, okay. And then he was just way more pleasant to be around and felt better about himself immediately thereafter.
And I think that's so much to do with just the clarity that like this is something you should pay attention to. Because I was talking about this the other day. I helped Riley with a bunch of horses on Monday, and it's like they, to varying degrees, they are trying to figure out what to pay attention to and what to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
And so when, for whatever reason, they've learned to tune out things that we need them to be tuned into or whatever. I think the reason I'm mentioning that is just because people are so quick to say that a dominant horse or a horse that's confident and not paying attention maybe or confident and not doing what we want them to do, that they're disrespectful, which is the word that I used, or they don't want to work. That one is very interesting to me, more all the time. More all the time, because it doesn't seem right. Now, if they've learned to tune things out because it has not consistently meant something,
Mm-hmm.
then that does manifest itself in a confident horse differently than it manifests itself in an unconfident horse. But I think from the horse's perspective, if we get into the horse's skin and look out physically to the person and the totality of the situation, they're trying to figure out what to pay attention to and what to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
What means something and what means nothing.
Yep.
So when you whack a horse on the butt or, do whatever you have to do to kind of be like, yo, pay attention to this.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, okay. It's not like I don't want you to be in charge. Anyone who's watched a herd, that's not a thing. Unless you have stallions, I suppose, but even they like usually like some direction, but the regular horses that we deal with like it way better when somebody else is in charge. So long as they think that that individual can handle it, that is what they prefer. And they like to move around. What are we saying?
They like to interact. They're social creatures.
It's not like a horse is going to sit at the corner of a stall all day, every single day. No, they're doing things.
Yep.
So I think that bears.
Amazing how much, even in the face of trying to get your horse to tune into things, it's amazing how much a horse can tune out which isn't amazing because they tune out in an ungodly number of things, but how much you can actually teach them to tune something out when you're doing your best to teach them to tune in. And you see that all the time, and that's a lot of what we're trying to help people
And get better at.
And get better at.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I said,
Yeah.
that like that sounds judgmental, right? But that is the thing. Like, how do we, like you said, how do we show them this is not something you're supposed to tune out? This is not something to ignore. This is something that has no meaning, and it doesn't concern you.
Exactly. And there's so many. We could use a bajillion different analogies, or I mean, zillions. The kid who's a bit of a thug, because nothing has meant anything, versus a kid who's just so afraid and so lost and feels like, they're a 5-year-old holding on to the hand of an adult who doesn't speak the same language, and they're in a city full of people that don't speak the same language, and they're desperately trying to figure out what the adult wants them to do. So can you imagine if it was a 5-year-old looking at the person, the adult that they're with, that they know that's their only hope of being safe because everything else is scary and foreign. And so they're just desperately trying to read what they should do, where they should go, how they should, it's like, and then to whatever degree that person seems menacing or kind and smooth, then the child can hold on to the hand and start to dial in. But like the desperation with which a horse is an afraid horse is trying to figure out what to do is heart-wrenching.
Mm-hmm.
So Diane, good morning. She says, the first time I've caught you guys live, love your methods. Oh, that's awesome. Welcome to the show. Hi, Maddie, Kathy, Kim. Oh, I'm so excited about Jarl. I'll tell you guys about another horse that I'm doing for the Rescue Horse Files, maybe the Secret Project. And Joanne, good morning. So Lisa says, I think you're stripping Liberty back to basics. Still Liberty, but taking back to the basic elements. I don't know. Maybe there can be different levels, like there are different uses of dressage, performance dressage versus military dressage. I don't know. I'm not sure, Lisa. We got to think about that a little bit more. Can I say real quick the side note? So sure. I've seen some Pirelli bashing lately, and I feel compelled to say I learned so much from Pat and Linda Pirelli. So much. I think part of this it was like twofold. First of all, I've seen some real bullshit memes in regards to Pat in particular. And I was at a facility the other day where the horsemanship was just, whoa. And a level 1 Pirelli would have been like level 1 Pirelli would have been so helpful. So helpful. So not only did I learn a ton, which helped me so much to step, and from Hans, of course, as you guys know, but step into more layers and make sense of it, because I had that foundation. I had all those years of experience. And being safe, you got to be safe to survive enough to like enjoy anything. So yes, was it all the whole picture? No. But did I learn a truckload? Yes. And did I have a great time? Absolutely. And were we surrounded in a community where we were not conditioned to talk shit about each other, and we were conditioned to be positive and to support each other? Yes. That is all I have to say about that. So if Pat and Linda hear about this, I just want you guys to know that I really appreciate you.
Cool.
Well, it's not. I'm not saying that it is the whole picture, but it was so important.
A lot there.
And trying to come up with a way, because people crave like a step by step, and especially now that we have years, multiple 3 years of Horsemanship Insider videos, which I've been thinking now that people are recommending this, and Morgan and Katie and Wendy can help with some of this. But what I get a question asked a lot of me is, I want so and so to join Horsemanship Insider, or they're going to join Horsemanship Insider. What should I have them start watching first? Right? So my answer for right now is, I recommend joining Horsemanship Insider and reading the community wall, and then start watching the videos that I'm pushing out. Like, just get in time, get in flow with the ones that are coming out. Of course, watch or listen to the show. That's super helpful, I would say. But and then you'll start to piece together what relates to you. But all of it, if you're going to be an equestrian, I was explaining this to Riley, who's 20. An equestrian is a scholar, which means you really have to have some study time every week. If you're not studying, you're not a scholar. If you're not a scholar, you're not an equestrian. So that is what I'm saying right now. And then what I'm getting at is designing a start here section where a person can be like, okay, let's start here in a way that I can watch, 5 to 10 minutes of video and then go spend an hour with my horse. I'm working on that. I actually wrote that course over the weekend, 3:00 in the morning. Well, 3 to 8 is how long it took me to find. But my point is that the amount of effort and the genius that went into creating a system that a person can follow, is amazing. So that's Linda's deal. Well, Linda and Pat together, I suppose. But and they're not the only ones. I'm just saying that takes a lot of work and thought to really try to figure something like that out, because, and I'm very resistant to it, because it's not really how it works, you know? And of course, Buck does it in his foundation classes or in his Colt Start. He does do it, get people from A to B for sure. But it is live instruction for 3 days. And we're talking about trying to express that in a way that a person can effectively study, and not half-assed. Point here, whack here, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not going to do that. I just will quit. I'll just be like, nope, not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do my own thing. You guys are on your own. But anyway, just a nod to all of that, because I feel compelled to stand up for them. And I certainly don't want to be ungrateful. That would be bad. The universe does not like ungrateful people. So that's that. Bad. Very bad. Julie O says, people are awful quick to throw out the baby with the bathwater when changing from one thing to another. That's a great way to say it. Julie, oh man, people do that, don't they? Woo! Yeah, that's bad. Lisa says she feel like she learned a lot from Pat and Linda Pirelli, helped me a ton with Minnie. Yeah, can you imagine? And this is the part, like, when you talk about throwing the baby out with the bathwater from that experience, you guys, what gets lost is how much fun we had. It was so fun. I'm glad to have the next layers. I'm glad to have, more information. But aside, it was great. If you just imagine it as being at Sandals Resort or whatever, it's like, we had an awesome time. Who cares? Lisa said, I feel like Jake is the horse he is because of what you learned from Pirelli and what Jim and I learned from Pirelli. But the learning doesn't stop with one source. It rarely does. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It takes a lot. I was quizzing Riley Monday. Once again, you guys, she's 20 and quite handy. But I was asking her, like, for instance, what did I ask Riley? If she was here, she would remember. I think we were talking about the backup. She was riding horse, and the backup was reasonably soft and timely. And my question to her was, okay, this is good. Now it's not gymnasticized. Now we have to, the final piece of the puzzle before we can say, check, we have that done, is we have to gymnasticize the backup. How would you do that? And I have specific answers in mind, but she didn't. And I was trying to explain that, yeah, that's part of it. You and I used to talk about this years ago, memorizing the curriculum so that you can be like, even run a practice session of your, ride a horse and be like, okay, I'm not forgetting this piece or this piece or this piece. It legitimately takes time to memorize that.
Mm-hmm.
Scholars must be scholars. Yes. Susan, yeah. So Lisa, tons of fun. Susan, tons of fun. Fun. Yes. Wouldn't you agree, Michael? What a grand time. I wish we could recreate the community component in that way. Anyway, it's neither here nor there.
Kind of are.
Yes, we are. You definitely have it going on at your place. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. You should write a book on how to do that. Julie, you could do it. But Julie, think about this. So what you guys have going on at Bellwether, both the Julies are here this morning, I think. What you guys have going on at Bellwether, that's what it was like with like 100,000 people scattered across the world. Fun. Yeah. All right. So back to Rosie. She's going to be here today. So that'll be that. Do you have anything else you have any comments, Michael, from my last speech? Oh, he has it on mute. So I'm going to talk for a second. The marshmallow. That has been fascinating. I'm so glad that I have a chance to keep going. I don't think that I had done much with him. He got there Wednesday night last week. Anyway, so the first time, here's what's happened. He went from being super upset. You guys have seen the reels where I was a problem to him. He was upset, first of all, scared, tight, uncomfortable. He's showing off his beautiful view here. Uncomfortable. And I keep saying that. Like, we got to get the horse comfy is the way I've been saying it over the last couple of weeks. But he was uncomfortable in his body. He was upset and scared, which is so bizarre. It's so bizarre. Michael, I was looking at him, I don't know what day it was, Friday of last week or Thursday. I'm like looking at him going, it's so weird to see you like this. Because and you know what's cool is he's showing me like another visual example that's beyond a shadow of a doubt that the horse is an intelligent being with, obviously that implies thoughts, but with feelings, emotions, thoughts and emotions, right? Intellectual thoughts and emotions. And it's so, because he was so mellow and then got so physically demonstrative and emotionally upset, like it's a cool highlight of what's going on in every horse. And doing the wild horses too. Side note, the superstitious shit that it is in the mule land it is in horses too, I know, but it's like I'm used to it in horses, so I don't notice it as much. But in the mules, like, it's pretty wild. Well, people have made up their mind. Mules do this, mules do that. I'm smug as fuck that I have a clean data set to be like, mm-mm. Or yep. So that is fascinating for my own study, like for my own study and conviction, and just once again, here's the marshmallow teaching me so much. So anyway, looking at him and being like, you are so, I was just like, so weird, dude. Okay, so he went from being, oh, you're leaving? Oh, he is leaving. Okay. All right. See you next week. Okay, I'll just finish my story, you guys. Okay. Bye. Have fun. I'm staying. I'm going to stay. So you go. Is he frozen? Okay, you guys. So he went from being upset and uncomfortable in his own skin, like physically uncomfortable in his own skin, and seeing me as an antagonist, seeing me as a problem, to then I was no longer an antagonist. And really, towards the end of a session, he was starting to get the idea that I was helping, but he was still not comfortable in his skin, not comfortable with the whole context of doing things. And those pieces of like physically uncomfortable, seeing me as an antagonist, starting to see me as neutral, and then getting comfortable towards the end. And then what happened day before yesterday is he saw, or whatever, the progression is that then he's seeing me as an asset, still uncomfortable at times with the saddle. But like the last time I saddled him, moved him around, it was the first time like he handled being saddled and walking around hindquarters, forequarters pretty nicely. But then when I went to tap the saddle with the flag, he definitely did still get to crow hopping around. But because he was seeing me as an asset and as an ally versus an antagonist, he let me help him. And I was thinking about that so much because we need the reins to get to the feet and our legs to get to the feet, right? And the saddle and the gear to be neutral. But there's so much, because when I run my hand down the rein, I need the horse to turn loose laterally, especially don't keep a roadblock at the base of the neck, and for them to yield the inside hind leg across, right? If he gets to crow hopping or something like that, or heaven forbid, bucking like he was bucking, explode, like I cannot ride that. The crow hopping, yes. But it highlighted how much me being in the category of an ally is so helpful. And because I'm not a bronc rider, I need that latitude, right? Just a little bit. Because he wasn't soft on the rein, because if he was, I could have stopped the crow hopping in one step, right? Like he goes to hop and I could have moved the inside hind leg over and then led him forward and it would have smoothed out, which is what happened. But it was like, hop, 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 then the hindquarters went, then we could go forward. And then that got a little better. Change direction, hop, 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 yield the hind. But he wasn't pulling out of my hand. He wasn't bowing towards me. He was still kind of on the arc, even though he was hopping around. And at that point, he's really just bracing against the gear, which means he's not comfortable physically. But it was such a relief to have him see me as an ally and be able to operate in the space where I'm like, you're good. You are good. What? Look, I'm gonna help you. And him being like, okay, I'll take your help, which is different than not having a problem in the first place. Right? These are different things. Like the horse being like, you know, I don't need your help. All of this is a problem. In fact, you're making the problem worse. I move to, I have a problem. I don't know if you can help me. See if you can. To, I have a problem. Oh, thank God you can help me. To, I don't have a problem. Right. And so that's, of course, what I'm heading to with the marshmallow, so that the next person that gets him, because he will be for sale, just so you know. And I'm thinking that I can have him sorted out so that he's comfortable with everything, the gear, environment, all of that, and fun to ride, because my first ride on him was not super fun because it was insane. Well, let me rephrase. It was fun for me. I think for 99% of the people would not be fun, because it's hard to believe that a horse can be that like not forward. He was comfortable, walk, track, canter, gallop with the saddle, and comfortable with me. But, you know, when I use my legs, it does not mean go forward. And I was like, this is how I learned it all from the marshmallow in the first place. You know, he won't have that by the time I'm done. He will be freely forward, walk, trot, canter, right? Sideways, stop being, back in a circle, 4/4 yield, all of those things. And I believe, and we'll see, I'll let you guys know if I'm wrong, but I believe that he will also be comfortable with the gear and comfortable in environments. He was so broke at a certain time, right? Okay, so all of that's going to be in place. However, and this is the caveat, and this is where I'm going to have to be more hands-on a little bit about who he gets next on his 9th owner. Two things. I am going to have some sort of a contract with the person who buys him in this particular case with this particular horse, because he cannot, like, I cannot deal with him getting lost out in the world again. I cannot deal with it. And he cannot. He doesn't have enough latitude in his life left for that. But if the next person can be his ally, I think it's going to be fine. The person needs to be a little bit handy just to be able to make sure that he's comfortable with the gear, but I should have built a lot of latitude into that. So it's not like a person has to be like super skilled. I'm not talking about fixing things, but just to maintain some freedom, some turned loose to the gear, to the environment, all of that, and be seen as his friend. Someone's going to get a very nice horse and have fun. A lot of fun, I think. That's my supposition. I will report back on that. So, Sam, good morning. We were talking about the marshmallow. Hope it's you. Well, anybody else have anything else going on? I am going to get going too. Treadmill, stalls, Rosie, and then I've got to get to work as well. So if anybody has any other comments, I can't see any right now. So we will plan to see you guys next Thursday morning at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8:30 Central. And lastly, I will just comment that I really appreciate you guys a lot, because it's really fun to get a chance to talk all this out every week. And sorry for being so ranty last week. I'm feeling much more optimistic and happy and believing in mankind this week. So anyway, I just want you to know you're appreciated. Check out the Rosie video on the Northwood Farms channel on YouTube, youtube.com/Northwood Farms. And join Horsemanship Insider at horsemanshipinsider.com and watch the Rosie videos. We have so much coming up. Susan says, I really appreciate you too. Thank you so much. Yep. All right, you guys, we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.